The world of Arkan 7 burned under two suns. The sky was full of black smoke, the ground covered with broken metal and the dust of destroyed cities. Commander Threx of the Vorn Dominion stood among the ruins, his silver armor scorched and cracked. Around him only silence remained, the silence that comes after a terrible battle. Threx was not used to defeat. He was trained from birth to win, to think like a machine, to calculate every risk. But today his numbers had failed him. The Cathar swarm had come in endless waves, machines with no fear, no rest, and no mercy. His fleet had been broken, his soldiers scattered. His command ship was gone and his communication line was silent. He looked to the horizon where fire met the sky. That was when he saw them, small figures moving fast among the smoke. At first he thought they were more machines, but as they came closer, he saw the human helmets and the blue light of their visors. "Commander Threx of the Vorn?" a voice shouted through static. Threx raised his weapon, not sure if it was friend or foe. "Identify yourself." "Captain Mira Solon, Earth Vanguard. We're not your enemy. You're coming with us." Before he could argue, the humans surrounded him. They moved with purpose, covering each other, scanning the skies. One of them dragged Threx to his feet. He could barely walk. His leg armor was broken and pain burned through his side. "Why would humans help a Vorn commander?" Threx asked as they ran through the smoke. "Because you're alive," Mira said simply, "and we don't leave anyone behind." They reached a crater where a small transport waited, half buried in ash. Mira helped him climb aboard. Inside, the air smelled of oil, blood, and determination. There were only 5 humans left in her squad, and every one of them looked exhausted, yet none complained. They flew low across the ruined landscape, dodging laser fire from the Cathar drones that still hunted from the skies. Threx looked out the window at the battlefield. He had studied humans before, saw them as impulsive, emotional, weak. Yet here they were, rescuing him even though he was not one of them. They could have left him. They should have. But they didn't. "Your people are reckless," he said at last. "You fight battles you cannot win," Mira smiled faintly. "Maybe, but we fight them anyway." When they landed, it was at the remains of an old fortress made of rusted steel and half-buried concrete. Human soldiers worked everywhere, rebuilding walls, dragging power cells, carrying wounded comrades. It looked more like a graveyard than a base, yet there was life in every corner. Someone had set up a campfire, and near it a man played a soft tune on a broken harmonica. Threx was stunned. "You sing? During war?" "We live," Mira said. "That's what we do best." She took him to the command center, a dark room filled with screens that flickered with static. The human commander there, Colonel Rains, didn't seem pleased to see a Vorn officer. "You brought an alien general here?" "He's one of them," he growled. "He's one of us now," Mira replied calmly. "He fought the swarm too." Rains studied Threx for a long moment, then sighed. "Fine, he can stay. But if he betrays us, you answer for it." Threx didn't respond. He had no words. In his culture, no one trusted an outsider. Yet these humans did. That night, the wind howled through the broken walls of the fortress. The soldiers huddled around small fires. Some shared food. Some laughed. Some prayed. Threx sat apart, watching them. Mira came over and sat beside him, holding a tin cup of steaming water. "You should drink," she said. "You lost a lot of blood." He accepted it hesitantly. The warmth spread through his body, easing the cold that had gripped him since his crash. "Why did you save me?" he asked again. "I have no value to your mission." Mira stared into the fire. "Because we're fighting the same enemy. Out there, it doesn't matter who's from Earth or Vorn space. What matters is who stands with you when the sky is falling." Threx didn't reply. Her words felt strange, illogical, but also powerful. He had spent his whole life believing that emotion was weakness. Yet he saw now that it gave humans something his people lacked: willpower that refused to die. Later, a siren wailed through the base. The Cathar were moving again. Mira stood, her face lit by the red alarm lights. "They found us." Threx rose beside her. His injuries hurt, but his pride hurt more. "I can still fight," he said. She handed him a human plasma rifle. It was heavier than his own weapon, less elegant but powerful. "Then fight with us," she said. "Not as a Vorn, not as a soldier. As one of us." Outside, the night turned into chaos. The Cathar swarmed from every direction. Thousands of steel beasts crawling over the rocks, their red eyes glowing like fire. Human cannons roared, lighting up the darkness. Threx joined the line beside Mira, shoulder to shoulder. He fired until the rifle burned hot, tearing through enemy machines. The ground shook as explosions ripped through the field. A tower collapsed, and Threx pulled 2 human soldiers out from the falling debris. They stared at him in surprise, then nodded in thanks. No one questioned why an alien fought with them anymore. Hours passed. The battle turned the fortress into a storm of smoke and light. But humans didn't break. They shouted to each other, laughed between shots, sang even when the enemy was at the gates. Threx had never seen anything like it. At one point, Mira was thrown down by a blast. Threx rushed to her side, blocking bullets with his own armor. "Stay down!" he shouted. She coughed and smiled weakly. "You sound like one of us now." When the dawn came, the swarm retreated. The battlefield was quiet except for the crackle of fires. The fortress still stood scarred but alive. Soldiers hugged each other, some crying, some laughing. Threx looked at the sunrise, a pale orange light spreading over the ruins. It felt like hope. Mira walked over, her arm in a sling. "You fought well, Commander." He nodded slowly. "You humans, you fight with something my people never understood." "What's that?" she asked. He looked at the human flag fluttering above the fortress, torn but still there. "Faith," he said softly. "You believe you can win even when you cannot." Mira smiled. "That's what keeps us human." Threx didn't answer. He only watched as the soldiers began rebuilding again, their hands stained with dirt and oil, their voices full of life. He had seen great armies fall, seen machines that could erase cities, but never had he seen such spirit. As night fell again, Threx sat alone on the wall of the fortress. The stars above Arkan 7 were distant, cold, and endless. Yet for the first time he didn't feel alone. He had fought beside humans. He had seen their hearts, their courage, their strange, wild hope. And deep inside, something in him began to change. The sky looked like fire, and the air smelled of burnt metal. The fortress where humans and the alien commander Threx had fought all night now stood quiet. The ground was full of wrecked machines from the Kethar swarm, their metal bodies scattered like broken bones. Commander Threx walked through the battlefield, his armor blackened by smoke. He had fought many wars across many worlds, but nothing had ever felt like this. The humans were moving around him, tired, bruised, but still alive. They carried the wounded, repaired weapons, and shared water and jokes. Even in the middle of so much death, they smiled. That confused him more than anything else. Captain Mira Solon limped toward him, her arm wrapped in a bandage. "You're still standing, Commander," she said with a faint grin. "Guess that makes you one of us now." Threx tilted his head. "One of you? I do not think your kind accepts outsiders so easily." Mira chuckled softly. "You fought beside us, didn't you? That's enough." They walked together to the command post where Colonel Rains and his team studied a flickering map. The red lights showed the Kethar army regrouping to the east. The swarm was coming again, bigger, faster, and stronger. "We can't hold another wave like that," one soldier said. "Our ammo's low and the shields are barely holding." Rains looked around the room, his face hard but calm. "Then we fight with what we have. No retreat. Earth never retreats." Threx stepped forward. "Your courage is impressive," he said slowly. "But courage alone will not stop them. You need a plan." Rains eyed him carefully. "You got one, alien?" "Yes," Threx said. "The Kethar swarm uses a control hive hidden beneath the eastern ridge. Destroy that and the rest will fall into chaos. My people once studied their patterns. I can lead a strike." The room went silent. Then Mira nodded. "I'm going with him," Rains frowned. "You're injured." "I'm still breathing," she replied. "That's enough." The colonel hesitated, then finally said, "Fine, take a small team. But if this fails, we're done." The strike team left the fortress before sunrise. The land beyond was a graveyard of machines, half-buried tanks, shattered drones, and craters glowing with strange blue light. The air shimmered with heat and static. Threx led the way, his alien scanner mapping the underground signals of the Kethar hive. Behind him, the humans followed in silence. Every step echoed on the burnt ground. Mira walked beside him, holding her plasma rifle steady despite the pain in her arm. "You really think this will work?" she asked quietly. "It must," Threx said. "The hive is the mind. Cut off the mind and the body dies." Mira looked at him for a moment. "You talk like a soldier again." "I am one," Threx replied. "But today I fight for something different," she smiled. "For who?" He paused. "For those who fight beside me." They reached the ridge by midday. The ground trembled with the pulse of hidden machines. The hive entrance was a deep chasm glowing with red light. Hundreds of drones guarded it, their metal limbs twitching like insects ready to strike. "Looks impossible," one human whispered. Threx's eyes glowed faintly beneath his helmet. "Then we make it possible." They moved fast. Grenades flashed, rifles thundered, and laser bolts sliced through the air. Threx charged ahead, his energy spear spinning like a storm. The drones fell one by one. Mira's squad covered his flanks, shouting warnings and commands. A drone lunged toward Mira from behind, but Threx turned and blocked the blow, his spear piercing the machine's core. Sparks rained down. Mira looked up at him. "Thanks," he nodded. "You would have done the same." They fought their way down the chasm until they reached a massive metal gate, pulsing with crimson light. Inside was the hive's heart, the control core. But the gate was sealed, guarded by a giant Kethar sentinel, 3 times taller than Threx, its armor glowing with blue fire. The humans froze. "That thing's huge," one said. Threx looked at the creature calmly. "Then we aim higher." He charged, dodging plasma blasts and leaping onto the sentinel's arm. Mira and her team opened fire, hitting weak spots along its back. The sentinel roared, swinging its metal arm and smashing rocks around them. Mira climbed a fallen beam and fired straight into the creature's eye. The light in the sentinel's chest flickered. Threx drove his spear deep into its core. The explosion threw everyone to the ground. When the smoke cleared, the gate was cracked open. Inside, the hive glowed with shifting light, a pulsating network of cables and crystals, alive with strange energy. Threx stepped forward, placing his hand on a glowing node. "I can overload it," he said. "But it will trigger a chain reaction. The hive will collapse," Mira frowned. "And you?" He looked at her. "I will not survive if I stay." "Then we do it together," she said firmly. "You're not dying here alone." Threx shook his head. "You humans never listen." Mira smiled faintly. "That's our secret." She handed him a detonator. "Let's end this." They planted charges along the hive's core, working side by side. The ground trembled more with each second. Drones began to reawaken, crawling out of the walls. "Go," Threx shouted. "I'll hold them off." Mira hesitated, but his eyes, bright and steady, told her everything. She ran for the exit as the machines closed in around him. Threx fought like a storm. His spear burned with energy, cutting through waves of drones. He felt his strength fading but refused to stop. Every strike, every breath, every heartbeat carried the memory of the humans who had stood beside him. When the last drone fell, he pressed the detonator. A flash brighter than the sun's filled the sky. The hive imploded, sending a shockwave that shook the entire ridge. From miles away, soldiers at the fortress saw the explosion bloom like a sunrise. The swarm's eyes went dark. One by one, the Kethar machines collapsed, lifeless. Back at the fortress, silence fell across the battlefield. The humans stared at the horizon where the explosion burned out. Mira stood on the wall, covered in dust, her heart heavy. She feared Threx was gone. Then through the smoke, a single figure appeared, walking slowly, his armor cracked, his steps unsteady. It was him. The soldiers cheered. Mira ran to meet him. "You're alive." "Barely," Threx said, his voice weak but steady. "Your species is dangerously contagious." She laughed through tears. "Contagious?" "Yes," he said. "Your courage. It spreads." The colonel saluted him as he entered the base. "You did good, alien. You saved us all." Threx looked around at the humans rebuilding once again, laughing, helping each other. He shook his head. "No, you saved me." Days later, as evacuation ships arrived, Threx stood beside Mira on the fortress wall. The wind blew softly, carrying the sound of human voices singing an old Earth song about hope and home. "You could come with us," Mira said. "Earth would welcome you." Threx looked up at the stars. "My people need to know what I have seen. They believe strength comes from power and control, but I have learned something greater." Mira turned to him. "What's that?" He met her eyes. "True strength is not the fire that destroys. It is the light that refuses to go out, even when the world falls into darkness. That light lives in you humans," Mira smiled. "Then take it with you." He nodded slowly. "I will." As the transport ships lifted off, Threx watched them rise into the dawn sky. The fires of Archon 7 faded behind him, replaced by a strange peace in his heart. He had come to this world as a commander seeking victory. He left it as a warrior who had found something far greater, something he could never measure in strategy or logic. He had fought beside humans. He had seen what they truly were, fragile, foolish, fearless, and magnificent. And as his ship vanished into the stars, he whispered a promise to the empty sky. I will tell them about you. I will tell them about humanity.